Hello, those of you that are coming in for Mystery Masterclass today. I tune into the energy before coming into this call, so I answer this question: what is the truest truth that will serve the highest good of those who are present for this? And I start receiving insights, and that's what I'm committed to sharing. I'm committed to sharing whatever comes to me through higher wisdom, and most of the time, what comes to me is the exact messages I also am integrating or want to hear. A lot of times when I share these things, I sound very certain. I sound like I know what I'm talking about. I sound like I have it all together. And the reality is, the only certainty I have is that it's coming from a higher place than myself. It's coming through my own higher wisdom. And a lot of times it's news to me as well, or I've gotten glimpses of it and a new layer reveals itself. So I just want to clarify that I am perfectly, imperfectly human. My humanness is so real all the time, even though it might sound like I have all this stuff figured out. We're all on this beautiful journey of evolution and growth and consciousness. And to me, this is our work. This is our purpose. This is what we're here for. We are here to be the change we wish to see in the world. We are here to master creating our own reality. We are here to align to the highest frequencies, which are always for the highest good of all. And this is the commitment and that I have made, and that I know many of you have made, and that's why many of you keep coming back, because this is our little plug into new learning and new wisdom. Okay, so when I held that question, what is the truest truth that will serve the highest good for you who are here and present with me now, I heard immediately, be the observer of the frequency under the frequency. So what does this mean? The frequency under the frequency. So to me, the easiest way to identify the frequency under the frequency is through our judgments. And it's layered. And so many times we believe we are operating from a certain frequency or level of consciousness or level of energy, but that is actually a mask to the truth of the frequency. And so we start to believe the mask. And so this little portal of the frequency under the frequency requires immense personal honesty. And it can be painful and it can be hard to take a look at. It's like a wolf in sheep's clothing. And so where this started coming up, even this week leading up to today's masterclass, is this is also going to tie to toxic positivity, and it's going to tie to spiritual bypassing. Some of the spiritual egoism that comes up, and then that's a mask to the actual frequency. So the reason why I'm bringing this up is the frequency under the frequency that you think it is the frequency that is creating your reality. So we think we're being positive, but the frequency underneath it is actually significantly lower. So if we're having desires in our life and we're very clear about what we want and we believe we are aligning to those desires, but they are not coming to fruition, it's highly likely you have a frequency under the frequency that is unconscious, subconscious, you're completely unaware of, and that's what you're attracting and that's what you're manifesting into your life. And so long as we have the illusion of what we believe our frequency is, which then we start to question things, which then drops the frequency to the real frequency anyway, which is a perfect example of how when we think it's one frequency and it's still not coming to fruition, how then we drop the frequency, which actually matches the frequency under the frequency. Now, I know this is a mind twister, and I also know and recognize that many of us come back and listen to these messages over and over again because of the depth and the layers, even in the language I'm trying to use to portray this. So let me just relay that again. We believe we are operating at a certain level of energy or consciousness. But if we peel away that belief and that illusion, the real frequency, the real level of consciousness is there. When we're operating at the illusory level, usually we tank down into the actual level we were operating from to begin with, because it's a perfect energetic match for us to have the experience of tanking down into the true frequency, as opposed to the frequency or the level of consciousness that we thought it was. So I'm going to share some examples with you. This is also what we call the projection field. How we identify the frequency under the frequency is through our judgments and through our triggers. For example, I was having a conversation with a client this week, and I said, I'm going to ask a harsh question because I could feel her discomfort with feelings like sadness and grief and fear and victimhood and feeling at the effect of. And I could feel her discomfort with anger and frustration and irritability. Levels 1 and levels 2, level 100 in the maps of consciousness, levels 200s, I'm going to say 100s for levels 1 and 2 in the maps of consciousness. So those very low frequency feelings, her judgment of them are a perfect match to them. So it's, ooh, I'm choosing to see the positive side of things. I'm choosing to see the silver lining. I'm choosing to see things through a bright, helpful lens. But the reason we're choosing to see it that way is because we despise those lower levels. That is the definition of toxic positivity. It is a repression of the rest of our human experiences because of judgment. And the judgment in and of itself is the frequency under the frequency, which is a perfect match to the exact thing that we are judging. And so many people who have people in their life, we've been on this spiritual journey, all of you here who are resonant with these messages, you're vibing at a level that you're touching on levels that are very out of this world and out of the ordinary, I would say, because very few people in the world have accessed this level. I'll pull some statistics from David Hawkins again. 85% of the entire world, 50% of developed countries operate under a life-enhancing level of consciousness. They are operating under life-depleting levels of consciousness. Even the fact that we can have this conversation and have awareness that there's a frequency under the frequency is a level of consciousness that is out of the ordinary, without, again, allowing ego to be like, ooh, look at us go. We are really high conscious people, right? There's that spiritual egoism that starts to come in. And the spiritual egoism actually then shifts the entire frequency back down to the lower levels that we're trying to avoid. So we're trying to avoid the lower levels, and a symptom of lower levels is avoidance. You see how it's a perfect energetic match. And so I'll go back to victimhood. So most of us that have been on this journey, we can look at people in our life and we can be like, you know what, that I don't like to be around that person. That person really pulls me down. They're always such a victim. It's always a pity party. They're always complaining about everything. They don't even see that they're creating their own reality. I'm thinking of people in my world right now as I'm saying this stuff out loud. They can't even see that this is why they're always sick and this is why they hate their job and they're creating this and it's how they see things and everything's everybody else's fault. Do you see what I'm doing even as I go into that energy, which is exactly that frequency? I am now a victim to other people's victimhood. So my judgment of victimhood makes me a victim. It is a perfect energetic match. So now what am I going to be calling into my life? What am I going to be attracting? What am I going to be creating in my reality when I am judging victimhood? When victimhood triggers me, that is what I am going to be creating because I am unwilling to consciously take a look at how I am a victim. Even in this situation, I am a victim to other people's victimhood. Now let's use another example. We'll go up the scale. When people don't value equality, when there is injustice, it makes me very angry. What energy level creates injustice? So I am angry about people being angry. I hate, I'm going to use harsh language, I hate people who hate. Wow, I'm a perfect energetic match for everything I'm judging. And then I wonder why I'm not creating a new reality or having new experiences despite the fact that I think or feel like I am a very high conscious person. Because it's the frequency under the frequency. And if we keep the frequency under the frequency subconscious, that's what's driving everything in our life and in our world. Just because we have reconciled or healed or accepted or shifted beyond certain types of victimhood, it was replaced by new types of victimhood. Just because we've become less angry about some things, it was replaced by new things to be angry about. And this is what We mean when we say it becomes a self-fulfilling travesty. It self-perpetuates. This is why it is so tricky for people to actually shift consciousness, because those levels come back with new faces and new masks over and over again, and they stay hidden because we believe we arrived at the next level, so we don't even need to look at it anymore because we've already gotten there. And so until we're willing to get really honest and look at the frequency under the frequency, we will not be able to shift any reality that we're living. We will not be able to create a new reality. And how many times do we choose to eliminate or set really good boundaries? I'm going to set really good boundaries with that person who's behaving in this way. And we're setting boundaries from a place of ego, and the ego's not bad, but it's like we're setting boundaries. The egos are human. The egos are animalistic tendency. It's always going to be there. But we're setting boundaries from a place of avoidance, not from and self-protection, not from an authentic place. And this goes back to energy self-organizes. When we know and believe and just stay in hyper awareness and hyper focus on our own freaking field, everything will organize around us. Everything will organize around us. You don't have to set boundaries. You don't have to set standards. The energy takes care of it. The reason why they are in your field right now is because you are them. You are them. You have the same view, the same frequency, the same everything. And until we acknowledge that, we will continue to be surrounded by those people. We can cut out siblings, and we can cut out old friends, and we can cut out all these past broken relationships. We can cut all those out. But everywhere we go, there we still are, because we are projecting on all of these things outside of ourselves, which is the ultimate self-protective mechanism, because so long as it is them, I get to keep my subconscious blocks and my subconscious frequency or my frequency hidden. I call this daddy gremlin and baby gremlin. Baby gremlin is out there saying, ooh, you need to do this, and you need to handle that, and you need to address this, and you need to handle that. But it's the judgment that's the daddy gremlin. So long as we're trying to handle everything out here and put a little protective bubble around ourselves, thinking that we're solving our challenges, that we're solving and setting up ourselves for more success, we're never addressing the daddy gremlin, the daddy inner critic, which is judgment, self-judgment, and judgment of others, judgment of anything. Judgment of money, judgment of business, judgment of anything. That's the daddy gremlin. Okay, so how does this tie into toxic positivity and spiritual bypassing? I think we can all see it, right? The frequency under the frequency is what we're attracting. We believe that it's what we say and what we think that attracts our reality. But it's deeper than that. It's why we say or why we think what we think. So the intention behind anything is what establishes the frequency and sets the trajectory of how you're leveraging the universal law of attraction of like energy attracts like energy. It's why you're doing the things you're doing, why you're saying the things you're saying. So I can say until I'm blue in the face, oh my gosh, everything's so lovely. It's so perfect. Oh my gosh, life is so beautiful, and I'm so grateful, and I just love everything about this life. And oh, people, oh, they're all rationalizations. They're all the third level of energy. They're all the third level of consciousness. So we talked about the first and second levels of consciousness with victimhood and anger and irritability. Now we're in the third level of consciousness, which is talking ourselves out of all of the level 1 and 2. And it's just a repression. It's just a repression and avoidance and an ignoring that provides us temporary relief. That's ultimately what toxic positivity is. And the only way to, I'm going to use the word bypass toxic positivity and or spiritual bypassing, is to radically accept and acknowledge all of it. You guys have heard me say this over and over again, and I will never stop saying it. You are 100% human and 100% spiritual. You will always be limited. You will always have catabolic, life-depleting experiences. As a human, you are limited. You are limited by the body. You cannot spin your head 360 degrees, no matter how bad you want to, no matter how bad you want to manifest that, you are limited. And spiritual bypassing likes to say, I'm limitless, I'm unlimited, which is also the truth because you are 100% spiritual. But so long as you want to be in this human body and not just poof off this earth, you will be limited. It is a both and. I am limited and I am limitless. I am human and I am spirit. I am a victim and I create my own reality 120%. I am angry, I am irritable, I am afraid, I am jealous, I am greedy, I am envious, I am kind, I am cordial, I am gentle, I am loving, I am smart, I'm intelligent, I am wise. See, we're moving up here. They're all true. They are all true. Because you would not be a whole and complete human on this earth if you leave even one smidgen of that part of yourself out of your existence. Wholeness and completeness means acceptance of all things. So the invitation is, let's stop trying to be perfect, because you already are, with the imperfections. So how do we shift this when we're projecting onto other people? This is really new for me, but man, is it a game changer. This is the shift when we talk about consciousness levels. This is the shift from levels 1, 2, and 3 to level 4, compassion. And we can hear it, but I actually have a process that I use that helps me feel it and experience it, because we can understand it, but conceptualizing something is one thing and integrating it is another thing. And so when I talk about compassion, the thing that you're going to conceptually understand, it's the one, we can only accept other people's humanness to the level we accept our own humanness. So long as we haven't accepted some shadow or something in ourselves, those people are going to trigger you. Those people and their behaviors and their thinking are going to trigger you. The only reason it is triggering you is because you haven't reconciled or come into acceptance with that aspect of yourself. And this is another little mind twist, because it represents itself in two different ways. One, it's an exact match, which means we see, I'm going to use victimhood again. We see somebody being a victim and we do not want to be a victim, but we are being a victim to the victimhood. Or the other match energetically is its opposite. It looks the opposite. So now much of our behavior, our thinking, our actions, our emotions are to not be that. I'm going to overcompensate. This is the reactive side of a trigger, or this is the reactive side of the frequency under the frequency. But it doesn't matter if it's the repressed side and it's a perfect match, or if it's an opposite match. It's the exact same if you just look at it through the tone of the energy, through the tone of the frequency and the vibration. It's identical. So we know this to be true because most of us, if we grew up with strict parents, we raised our kids not being strict. And then our kids became strict parents. It's just a pendulum that goes back and forth and back and forth. So much of our behaviors and what we're doing unconsciously is we are doing everything in our power to not be like the people who programmed us, that we are judging. Parents, yes, parents, teachers, coaches, anybody that we are judging. So then we're like, ooh, I don't want to be greedy, so I'm going to make sure that I'm overly generous. That's not authentic generosity. That is shadow generosity. That is overcompensating for the thing you are judging. So what does genuine generosity look like? We actually don't have an ability to make a conscious choice about who we are being and what we are thinking and what we are doing unless we have fully accepted both sides of the pendulum. So until I radically accept the greediness in me, only then can I radically accept the generosity in me. I don't get one without the other. I don't get the opportunity to be authentically generous unless I'm incredibly accepting of greediness. So think about that. That which we judge, we can overcompensate for, but the frequency is the same as the thing we are judging. So how do we shift it then when we're identifying it in other people? So when we have compassion, compassion for ourselves is huge. But when we are triggered by other people and it's very hard to let go of our righteousness and our judgment, how do we have compassion for them? And this is interesting. So conceptually, we recognize and know the innocence inside each and every one of us, the 100% humanness in each and every one of us, the naivety of each and every one of us. And they are no different. And my belief that they should be is judgment in and of itself. And this is going into the oneness. They are me and I am them. So whatever I'm witnessing in them, the only reason I can witness it is because it's in me. So I'm going to start having some compassion. But the deepest way that I do this is I lean on this statement about how we do anything is how we do everything. So it's one thing for me to have that compassion, and we have to feel it in our heart. Otherwise, it's just lip service. So it's one thing for me to have that compassion through that of just like, we are one and they are me and I am them. There's that. But if I go to this statement of how they do anything is how they do everything, and I look at how they're behaving and how they're seeing the world, I start to see the tone of their vibration and their frequency. And I'm like, so if they are skeptical of me, and I'm feeling like I need to prove myself because they're skeptical, which I'll share some examples with you in a second, just happened this week. If they're skeptical of me, and now I feel like I have to prove myself, now we're shadow boxing. Now we're boxing in the same energy field. But if instead I can separate myself and say, okay, if there's somebody who is this skeptical about me, or lack this much trust, or feel this afraid of being taken advantage of, if how they do anything is how they do everything, how else is this showing up in their life? So I actually compound the compassion. How else is this showing up in their life? If this is the lens that they're seeing the world through, I just hold these curious questions. What might it be like when they're driving in traffic? What might it be like when they're walking down the street after eating dinner out? What might it be like with their partner at home? What might it be like if you were a parent with this viewpoint? Skeptical, untrusting, not feeling safe. And I'm feeling it right now as I hold those questions. My whole heart gets heavy. And the word that comes to me every single time is, oof, ouch, ouch. And I feel, I'm going to say sorry. It's not sorry for them. I feel sorry. That is the existence and the experience that they are having in their life everywhere they go. That must be really hard to see the world through that lens. I feel zero responsibility for helping them change it. I just feel compassion. And then I usually will surrender it to God. I'll send some love. I will send some love. And then I will surrender to God. So they are on their journey. Guide them to another place that doesn't require so much suffering. It is in your hands. It is in their hands. I trust. I trust you. Okay. So this just happened. I used to go into hiding in my business because every time I become visible, it would come with rejection. It would come with judgment. The more visible we come in our businesses, the more we put ourselves out there in not safe places that everybody already knows and loves you, the more vulnerable it is, the more we open ourselves up to judgments, to rejection, to opinions, to unsolicited advice, to sales pitches, to you name it. Visibility comes with a lot of exciting experiences and impactful and powerful experiences and a lot of refining experiences. And I'm just going to share this example. When I was running Facebook ads, I remember having a conversation with somebody. They were in their glamorizing child. This was a number of years ago. And she said, I want to run Facebook ads too. It sounds so great. And there's so many things that are so awesome. Like the number of people that you get to put a message in front of, like millions of people for like pennies on the dollar. It's such a wild, awesome thing to be able to buy media in this way. And to be able to push out messages to like the masses and to be able to see it's literally touching thousands, hundreds of thousands of people. That's the exciting part is, oh my gosh, my energy is spreading in a seen way. Whether they become a lead or they opt in, it doesn't matter. Even if they just see my face or they see my eyes or they hear one sound in my voice, I feel like I'm spreading consciousness in a seen way. And so that's very thrilling and exciting. And also with that comes managing hundreds of comments, hundreds of comments, some of them kind, many of them unkind. And this is what then requires as we address the frequency under the frequency and we come into wholeness and completeness, we become unfuckwithable. We become unshakable. Not because we have to have protective stuff up, but because we're no longer triggerable. And when we're no longer triggerable, then true authenticity can come through. And so I believe this is a lifelong journey for all of us. We'll always bump up against new opportunities for growth and refinement and expansion. And that's what triggers are here to teach us, is this is where you're still judging. This is where the frequency is under the frequency. So it's a beautiful thing. But for me, it was very personal early in my business. It was very hard for me to read those things about how I looked or how I sounded or who did I think I was. There was a lot of management of other people's energy because that was where I was at. So I haven't really been visible outside of a safe place until more recently. And so we started putting these videos up on YouTube. And Ashley, so we're starting to get some comments on a couple of your videos. Just wondering, what do you want me to do with it? Should I just turn off commenting altogether, or should I just hid this person's comments? They were completely inappropriate. I said, yeah, that's perfect. Go ahead and just hide them. But I still was in avoidance. I was like, I just trusted Ashley handled it. I didn't really want to see it. And then I popped over there yesterday and I saw the comments. And it was such a gift because basically one of the questions that the person had asked was, I'd like to know your qualifications. This is horrible advice. I hope nobody listens to you. And the first thing that popped into my head was like, I'd like to know your qualifications. I'm like, school of life, baby. I was like, I found it so funny. And I was like, oh my goodness, I'm growing. Like, I didn't feel triggered by this person and their comment questioning my qualifications. And there was a comment like, oh, nice crayon drawing. You write 3 words on a piece of paper with your shitty webcam. And I'm like, what I felt was endearment towards myself because I was like, wow, this is so amazing that I didn't care about that. When I was at that stage in my business, I didn't care about that stuff. I just cared about sharing a message. I felt self-love and self-worth in the name of that criticism. I felt good about how I didn't care about that stuff. It didn't even cross my mind that I had a shitty webcam. I just had a message I wanted to share. And I just felt a lot of love to that previous version of myself. And so it was really a gift to receive these comments. And then I did this exercise and I thought, he said something like, oh, Fortune 500 companies, and geez, could you imagine if you even brought this? And how many multi-million-dollar teams have you led? And in the past, that would have been things I wanted to prove myself. I would have had to explain myself. And in this, it was just like, wow, a complete stranger took the time out of his day to say these things. He's asking me to prove myself. So what is the projection? He's projecting onto me. So I'm able to just start reading the mail exactly like I said. I'm like, wow, so he must feel like he has to prove himself all the time. And I bet it's a bottomless pit. And I bet no matter what he accomplishes or achieves, and it doesn't even matter if this story is true or not, as long as it creates a frequency of compassion in your heart. That's the frequency. Like I'm just going to create a story that builds up an experience of compassion and love in my heart so that I can send a frequency of love out and not judgment. I could be totally off. I have no clue. Actually, we do. When we really know how energy works, it's what must be happening for somebody in their life that they would take the time to feel this strongly about something that's not even personal. There's a lot there, but it's really interesting. Ooh, I like that, Jen. How valuable would it be to look at our current day self with the compassion of our future self? It's almost like what I was able to do and have that compassion for that. Actually, I would say I was really proud of her. To me, that previous version of myself that didn't care about the webcam and so passionately drew out some drawings on a white sheet of paper and held it up to the camera. Sometimes I see her or I hear other podcasts that I've done and oh my gosh, this is gonna make me cry. And this is when what you're saying is, what if our future self? It's like our future self isn't always stronger or better than our past self because we forget. And so I like this. And when I sometimes see my past self when I'm in a forgotten state, I'm experiencing imposter syndrome, self doubt. Who am I? I'm not seen. I'm not understood. When I'm experiencing a lot of that frequency, when I see her just like putting herself out there and saying things nobody else is saying, I'm like, who is that girl and where did she go? And then she comes back home. And so I had that a little bit of experience, like when he was, but I wouldn't have seen her if he hadn't criticized her. But I saw her then, like to even have the courage and the willingness to do that then at that stage in my business. And I'm sharing this with you guys because it's really helpful to go back. Like when you go back, I told you some of the videos make me cringe, but there's also, you listen to yourself and you're like, this is who I am. This is what I have believed for eons. Why would I be questioning it? It's just who I am. Why am I trying to be different? It goes in all the directions. It's really cool. Okay, so I wrote, the triggers represent the opportunity to become aware of and accept our judgment, righteousness, and play in non-duality. And when I say play in non-duality, this is their perspective gets to exist alongside yours. And so both are true, right? This is the both and. They can be having that exact experience and it doesn't mean a thing about you. This is an example I used with a client this week. I might love peonies and you might love daisies. I can love peonies without hating daisies, but I don't prefer them or I don't even maybe like them, but that means nothing. That doesn't mean anything about anything. And so when people are triggered by you or you're triggered by them, like both realities get to exist. So if we take it beyond flowers or ice cream flavors or whatever into real life, if you look at your siblings, both of you probably, I know this is the experience for me, but if you look at your siblings, if you have siblings, or if you look at your parents, or if you talk about crime scenes, everybody sees it through a different lens. And both lenses are an illusion. So even though I might think my lens is higher conscious and more supportive and life enhancing, it's still an illusion. It's still an illusion. It still just doesn't mean anything. And the same is true for the other person's. And so non-duality is just recognizing triggers just give us the opportunity to take a look at where am I judging, where am I righteous, and how can both things be true? In the United States right now, obviously we're stepping into we've been in a huge political arena for a long time. And for every country, that's the case, right? But you can see how life depleting, catabolic politics is, because why does one have to be wrong and one have to be right? Why can't both actually be right and both actually be wrong? So yeah, this is playing in non-duality. This is the last thing I want to talk about with this topic. When I trigger somebody else, I use that as also a point of awareness to just do a double check. And my double check is, okay, when I said that, why did I say it? Or when I did that, why did I do it? What was my energy? And again, it takes hyper awareness. I have a commitment to the truth over how I feel and how it makes me feel. So that's the thing. I am committed to the truth. I will even say that in my head. I will say, I'm going to ask this question because I'm more committed to the truth and the awareness that the truth brings to me than how it makes me feel. So I'm going to take a look at, why did I say that, or why did I do that? And I'm going to answer it honestly because I want the truth, because the truth will set you free. And if I can look at it and know that my intention was pure, was coming from love, not fear, shadow, or trigger, then I can also at the same time know instantly that I don't have to take responsibility for their trigger or their experience. In fact, it doesn't even require an apology because it's not my responsibility. However, if I realize that I was coming from an intention of righteousness, judgment, whatever it may be, then I feel as though then it's crucial for me, even if it triggered them and they've got their stuff, for me to forgive myself, for me to accept myself. I take responsibility for it. Now, I'm not saying I do this all the time, but this is the goal, right? But if my intention was clean and clear and came from love, I wouldn't change anything I do. Love is the answer for everything. If you're a coach and you show up on a coaching session, I just told a client this. The reason why I love doing mystery masterclasses is because I have one intention. I am present and I am loving. I don't need to plan. I don't need to prepare. I don't need to do anything. I'll hold a question. What is the truest truth for the highest good, for the highest expression of love in this time, in this now moment? And then we go. No preparation, no planning, because if I know, and some of you even said this, that presence and love is all that is ever required for anything to transform, to shift, to become life enhancing, to build up, to expand. So if I knew I was coming from that place, then there's nothing I'm going to change about what I said or what I did. And I can now go into the compassion exercise and say, who? Because it's not about me. It's 100% about them. So now I can experience compassion and push love in that direction even more of their trigger, of how they're seeing the world, of how they're taking things, of how they're misinterpreting frequency to create their own suffering. This is a tricky place to play because you can see how quickly you would shadow box and project back onto the other person. Oh, that's your stuff. That has nothing to do with me. As a way to keep your unconscious frequency unconscious. So again, it's the frequency under the frequency. It's hyper awareness. Okay, let me go to the Q&A. People in your life who are in victim mode, do you distance yourself from them or do you try to help them and wake them up? I'm asking because I feel lately people in my life are in that mode. And what you said makes sense. My judgment of the victim makes me a victim, but I also feel I have a moral obligation to help them because I roam on higher energy level. And thank you for bringing this forward. I'm going to have a little truth bitch slap today. Maybe. This goes back to one of our first mystery master classes when I talked about you see a booger in somebody's nose and you tell them the booger's there, they don't want to see it, and then it just frustrates you more and irritates you. So the only reason why we would want to help somebody come to a higher level of frequency and vibe on the same place that we are is what? Judgment and lack of acceptance. And then when we say, I have a moral responsibility to help people, nobody needs you to save them. They have their own power. You are taking the power away from them. They are either choosing it or not choosing it. Life will create the opportunity for their evolution, just like it created the opportunity for your evolution. I would love to hear if it is different for any of you, because I'm going to make an absolute statement, which is always dangerous. Spiritual growth has not come from people imparting wisdom on me I wasn't looking for. If anything, it drove me further away from it. What drives us into spiritual expansion, consciousness shifting, and growth, the universe has it covered. God's already got it all. God's gonna hit that person up with a fucking 2x4. Whether it's health, relationships, jobs, maybe they'll get it, maybe they won't. Maybe they need to be hit upside the head 18 times by the universe. Maybe they don't need it to be that bad. Maybe they'll just all of a sudden get an inkling because they've got divine wisdom and intuition inside of them that says, hey, have you ever thought about being a life coach? What the hell is a life coach? That sounds woo. I can't even tell you how many people's souls have been attracted to come to sessions with me or to come into coaching partnership with me who have said, if you would have been talking about this stuff with me a year ago, I would have thought you were freaking nuts. But now I get it. I bet almost every one of you could say that because I know I could say that about my past. But that wasn't any doing. I wasn't saved by anybody. Nobody came in and said, Stace, you're really not good enough, Nelly. You need a lot of freaking help. Do you know that you are the problem? That you are the common denominator in all your shit here? How do you think somebody of lower level consciousness is going to receive that? One, the person saying it is coming from a place of judgment, so we're going to start shadow boxing right away. Oh, really? Oh, you think you got it all figured out? Yeah, I see what you're doing over there. You're still smoking, you're still drinking, boom, boom, shadow box. Oh, this was so great too. This was one of the more recent conversations I had with Bruce C. Schneider. because I had this exact thing. I knew I was struggling with acceptance, but I was like, how can I be more accepting of other people in the journey they're on? And basically, the gist of the conversation and the takeaway for me was, and there's one little shift that he helped me refine even further. He said, you're expecting people to see the world the same way you do. They have different values and ideals. They're different. And I was like, oh, I get it. It's, if I think about fruits, let them be apples and let them be oranges. One's an orange, one's an apple. Let them be apples, let them be oranges. He said, no, it's not let them, they are. They are an apple, they are an orange. They see the world this way, you see the world that way. Nothing needs to be changed. It's asinine to think I'm going to turn an apple into an orange. We're pretty fucking magical, but that's freaking crazy. There is a limit to crazy talk here. And then I said, they are. They just are. And then he said, and there's no reason for you to feel bad about your ideals and values. Basically, what I heard was, just do you and let them do them. Nobody needs to be changed. Nobody needs to be saved. And in fact, if we really broaden this out further, how do we know that all these different levels of consciousness aren't exactly the way it's supposed to be? How would we even have an opportunity to spiritually grow if everybody was fixed over there with lower levels of consciousness and didn't trigger us and didn't give us an opportunity to see and have compassion about what the world must feel like over there, and to have empathy about what the world must feel like over there? Not judgment, empathy, understanding, allowance, acceptance. They are. I am. For me, part of being compassionate is to recognize that each person is responsible for their own journey. The way I show compassion for myself is to release myself from the responsibility of fixing others. When I perceive someone needs fixing, I know I'm in judgment mode. Maureen has an amazing guide that goes into this, especially for service-based people. And if we're really being honest about this, the reason why we want those people to change is because we don't want to have to make the choice, or we want them to make our lives easier. We want them to make it so we don't have to feel uncomfortable with our own judgments. And so we are projecting on them significantly, which is a perfect match about why these people are in our field. And so now we are going down the elevator of consciousness under the guise of helping, as opposed to sustaining our frequency from a place of non-judgment. And one of two things happen with energy. People either entrain to the frequency that you are holding, which if we are going down the energy elevator, then we're not holding any frequency for them to entrain to, or they have to go away. Energy self-organizes. Our higher frequencies of acceptance, love, compassion, empathy, all the higher frequencies set the fertile ground for entrainment. The more powerful energy always entrains because it is innate to who we are. We are whole and complete and limitless and pure level 1000, level 7 energy. And the only reason that we don't experience that is because we've got clouds and veils covering it up. So we're shedding layers. And every single soul, and this goes back to that compassion and empathy piece, every single soul is pure consciousness. Here, level 7, level 1000 in maps of consciousness. And the only thing is the veils. But if we remember that they are that, and there is a pull in every single one of our souls to come into the truth of who we are. We don't have to do anything. It just happens. And the greatest gift we can give people who are suffering or in victimhood is to hold our frequency. You don't have to say anything. You don't have to do anything. Just be you. And people all around you start to, I think one of two things happen. Either they entrain, which means they shift, transform, and change, or we change because we're no longer judging. I think it's both things happen. And so then we're no longer affected or impacted by whoever's around us. All we see is beauty. We don't see imperfection. Okay, that's Mystery Masterclass. We'll be back in a couple weeks. I do have one announcement invitation. I have 2 spots open for a retreat that I'm holding in Palm Springs next month. It's a 2-day retreat. We're staying on site. It's very small, less than 8 of us total. Very intense, very powerful, very present. I've only done a retreat this small one other time in Mexico. It was transformational. And so if that speaks to you, definitely reach out. The dates are the 17th and 18th, again in Palm Springs. 6 of the spots are taken, 2 spots are remaining. It's going to be luxurious. It's going to be beautiful. And I'm just finalizing the details for delicious food, an in-house chef, beautiful accommodations, your own room, your own bathroom. Yeah, so if that speaks to you, definitely reach out. Just send me a private message or send me an email. And we'll hop on a call and see if it makes sense and if it's something that will work for both of us. Okay, so that's a wrap. We'll see you all in a couple weeks. Thank you for being here. Appreciate you all. Love you all. Have an amazing rest of your day, and goodbye for now.